Hey guys, and welcome to another one. In this video, I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about Exam Objective 3.5. We're going to be having a look at comparing and contrasting storage devices. We're going to have a look at all the details we have here in this exam objective. I'm going to tell you the kind of questions they might ask you on your real exam. And of course, I'm going to give you those practice questions at the end to make sure you're ready. So without further ado, let's get straight to it. We're going to be starting off with hard drives, specifically looking at spindle speeds. We'll have a look at what that means. Let's get straight into it. So we're going to zoom in here and have a look at hard drives. We've already talked about what hard drives are, right? We know what they are. We have HDDs, which, as we see over here, and as we've discussed, are these physical hard drives which have these actual physical spinning components. It has its physical spinning disk that has to physically turn. And because it's made of these physical components, over time it does experience wear and tear, and eventually it is likely to break down at some point, right? That is the hard drive. Now, the spindle speed, which is one thing you definitely do, in fact, need to know about for your exam, refers to the rate at which the platters inside the hard drive spin. So the rate at which this is actually spinning around. There's 4 specific speeds that you need to know about. They're very specific speeds, okay? You've got 5,400 RPM, 7,200 RPM, 10,000 RPM, and 15,000 RPM. And essentially, what you need to know is that the faster it spins, the less latency there is. The faster it spins, the less latency that hard drive has. So what this means for you and for your exam is you may have to toss up, you know what, this person has told me that they need a lot of storage, but they don't necessarily need to prioritize having very low latency. They don't need to focus on having high speeds. In that case, in order to be budget friendly, because the higher the speed, generally the more expensive the hard drive is going to be, in order to be budget friendly, you might go for 5,400 RPM. However, if you're presented with a scenario that says this person really needs very high speeds on their hard drive and they're willing to pay as much as they need to in order to get it, you are going to want to go with 15,000 RPM, right? So for your exam, you're going to need to toss up, based on the scenario, what speed should I be recommending here? The faster the speed, the more of a budget they will need. Didn't mean that to rhyme, but it did. Okay, that's a breakdown on that. Now, the next thing you need to know is form factors, and you need to know that the 2.5 inch, this is just how big the hard drive is, right? 2.5 inch form factor is smaller and more compact. It is always used in laptops, all right? So if you have a laptop, you're going to be using the 2.5 inch form factor. However, the 3.5 inch is a larger form factor, right? 3.5 inches is bigger than 2.5 inches, is the larger form factor and is primarily used in desktop computers and servers. So if you got a desktop or a server, it's a safe bet you're using a 3.5 inch form factor, which just means like how big it is, what shape it is of the hard drive. The word form factor just means what shape is it and how big is it, essentially. Okay, generally they do offer more storage capacity and durability, but they lack the portability of these smaller 2.5 inch drives. So again, have to toss that up. It's more than likely for your exam going to be as simple as, if it's a laptop, it's going to be 2.5 inch. If it's a desktop, it's probably going to be 3.5 inch, right? That's probably what you're going to be having a look at. So the next thing is solid state drives. Okay, you do need to know about that for your exam. We've had a look at these bad boys before. We've had to talk about them in exam objectives long ago, so I won't hop on too much about it, but just remember, they don't have those physical moving parts, right? They don't have those physical moving parts. They're more quiet, they're more reliable. Now, solid state drives, as we've said, they're storage devices that use flash memory to store their data, offering faster performance and greater durability compared to the traditional hard drives, hard disk drives. Now, what we need to know about for your exam is the communication interfaces. We need to know about something called NVMe. We've talked about that a little bit before. We need to know about something called SATA. We need to know about something called PCIe, which we've talked about before as well. And we need to know about something called SAS. All right, we're going to get into all of that coming up, but just prime your brain to get ready to learn about those. We're going to be going into NVMe first up. All right, let's go ahead and do it. So, NVMe, or non-volatile memory express. Before we get into the notes, we're going to have a look at the picture over here, right? We've had a look at these before. We should know these are PCIe slots, okay? So we have a PCI slot over here, which is the older standard, and then we have the PCIe or PCI Express one over here. And what an NVMe, what that protocol is it's essentially just a protocol that is used over the PCIe interface in order to take full control, full advantage of that PCIe slot, and it is the fastest way to essentially operate. It is the fastest protocol to operate. So if you have a hard drive with NVMe, what that means is you are going to plug that hard drive into the PCIe slot, and because it has NVMe capabilities, it is going to be able to use the NVMe protocol to utilize the PCIe slot to achieve really fast speeds. And if it did not have NVMe, it would still be able to plug into the PCIe slot, but it would not have those super fast capabilities because it would be limited. It would not be able to use the NVMe communication protocol. So that's pretty much what it is, right? Long story short, that's what it is. You can pause and read these notes, but at a broad overview, that's pretty much what you need to know for your exam. Anything more specific than that, I don't think so. But to be safe, you can pause and read. I'm going to go ahead and move on though. Actually, yeah, this is what I just said, right? NVMe is a super fast way for your computer to talk to your storage using PCIe. So it makes use of PCIe to talk to your storage in a really super fast way. That's a simple way for you to understand it. And for your exam, that's pretty much what you need to know. Okay, the next one is SATA. All right, so we've talked about SATA so much. We should be pretty familiar with SATA, right? It is a widely used communication interface designed to connect storage devices such as hard drives, hard disk drives, and solid state drives. SATA can connect all your drives. It looks like that, right? It has that little lip on it. We had a look at the connections previously. SATA drives are slower than NVMe drives. NVMe is the fastest, okay? But despite being slower, SATA still provides pretty good speeds for most general purpose computing tasks. Like, it's good enough to get the job done, and it can actually be pretty quick, to be honest with you. It's still really good, just not as quick as NVMe, all right? You may want to go with SATA if you're looking at trying to be cost effective, right? Maybe you don't want to dish out money for an NVMe drive. Maybe you're okay with SATA because you don't really need that super fast communication, all right? That might be something that you want to toss up when it comes to choosing between NVMe and SATA. NVMe is really quick. It's going to be more expensive. SATA, not so quick, but it definitely gets the job done for most things. So pay close attention to what that scenario in your exam is presenting you with, and see what requirements they are saying they need, right? If they're saying they need something really quick and they are willing to spend the extra money, probably go NVMe. If they say they need to be budget friendly and they don't need that much speed, probably go with SATA. That's the kind of thing you'd be looking at, all right? Now, this is what we were talking about with the PCIe interface. We have talked about it a bit already. So PCIe, basically guys, it is a high-speed communication interface used to connect various components in a computer, such as graphics cards, SSDs, and network adapters. If you have any kind of adapter, and you can also plug your hard drives in here as well with those to take advantage of the high speeds of PCIe, you would put them in the PCIe slot, which looks like this. Okay, looks like this. You can also get these smaller PCIe slots depending on how big that expansion card or drive is, right? So you may need to know about the standards and speeds. So PCIe 3.0 is up to 8 gigabits per second. PCIe 4 is up to 16 gigabits per second. PCIe 5 is up to 32 gigabits per second per lane. And you're probably not going to need to know those, but just basically the premise is it's a really fast way to communicate over that motherboard, right? It's super fast way to do it, and it enables the use of NVMe. So remember we talked about NVMe not too long ago? PCIe allows NVMe to do its thing. So without PCIe, there is no NVMe, and that's because PCIe is like just really fast. Essentially, that's what you need to know, right? So PCIe allows the use of NVMe SSDs because they have that really fast communication with your motherboard. That's at a simple way what you need to know for your exam. Just understand PCIe is where you plug in expansion cards and drives if they are NVMe capable. because they allow the use of that NVMe protocol, right? That's pretty much for the most part what you need to know about that. The next one is something called Serial Attached SCSI, or Small Computer System Interface. And on your exam, they're most likely to refer to this as SAS, not as in the Special Forces from the UK, but as in SAS, Serial Attached SCSI. Now, this is a high performance communication protocol, and it's generally used to connect devices within an enterprise setting. So if you're using SCSI, SAS, I'll refer to it that way, it's probably going to look something like this, right? What we see in this image here is a wide variety of different devices all connected together. Why would that be what we're looking at for SAS? Well, simply because SAS can connect up to 16,384 devices in a single domain. And for that reason, it's generally used in enterprise grade situations. So it is optimized for environments requiring high speed, high capacity, and reliable storage, such as servers and data centers, right? So if you're looking at trying to connect a wide variety of devices in an enterprise setting or in a data center, you may want to be looking at using SAS as an example. All right, so SAS supports data transfer rates of 22.5 gigabits per second, and it can connect an incredibly large amount of devices all at once. So really good benefit for high speeds in very wide spanning enterprise environments. It is going to be one of the key choices in scenarios such as that. And just a quick Google search shows that the SCSI, right, looks something like that. Serial Attached SCSI, or SAS. Remember, SAS, right? Looking like that. So just do a Google search, see what it looks like, and you should be sweet to go. So long as you understand this is used in enterprise-based settings to connect a wide variety of different devices at a speed of about 22.5 gigabits per second, all right? For SAS 4, that is. So as we said, used in data centers, high performance computing, and enterprise storage as well. So hopefully that made sense to you guys. The next thing we need to know is the form factors for SSDs, the different form factors. We've talked about the M2 drive and how that plugs straight into the motherboard in previous exam objectives. And we've talked a little bit, maybe once, about mSATA. We're going to get a little more into these two now. Just rehash our memory, I suppose. The M2 drive is a form factor, which is just means a shape and size of SSDs. And the M2 drive is much smaller, right? It's a very small rectangular chip looking thing, and it actually plugs directly into the motherboard. You can insert it into the motherboard with a single screw. You would just screw it in with a single screw back there, and it is the fastest form factor of the SSD that you can use. And if you have a look at this SSD, have a look at it and think, based on what we've talked about so far, what would make it so fast, right? This one in particular has a certain capability. 3, 2, 1. Pause the video if you want some more time to think about it. It is M2, but it's also NVMe capable. It has NVMe capabilities, which means it's going to plug into that PCIe slot that we were talking about to take advantage of the full potential of PCIe through the NVMe communication protocol. So M2 basically plugs straight into the motherboard and has super fast communication, and they're often NVMe capable. Not always, but often. All right. So that's largely what you need to know. They can be used through the PCIe slot straight into the motherboard. That's M2. What you really need to know about that is it's a small form factor. They plug straight into the motherboard, and they don't have to be connected with a cable, right? So because they're connected straight into the motherboard, even if it's not NVMe, because they're connected straight into the motherboard, the communication is much faster than if it's through a SATA cable, and often they will be NVMe capable, meaning they can get plugged into that PCIe slot and really take full advantage of it. Okay. The next one that we're going to have a look at is Mini Serial Advanced Technology Attachment, or mSATA. Now, this is a compact form factor, and again, remember, form factor just means shape and size of the solid state drive that uses the SATA interface. So guys, if this uses SATA, that's not going to be as fast as NVMe. That's the key thing we want to take into account here. This is older than M2 drives, and it's not going to be as fast as NVMe. All right, this was introduced in 2011 as part of SATA 3.1 and is designed for small space-constrained devices such as laptops, tablets, etc. Basically, it's a small compact version but it's not as fast as M2, right? So you've got the M SATA supports only the SATA interface, but the M2 that we just talked about supports both SATA and PCIe, such as the NVMe drives, if they have NVMe capability. Okay, M2 drives are generally more versatile and have various sizes, but M-SATA has a fixed size. So again, it's going to be a matter of M2 is going to be more expensive due to the advantages. M-SATA is a little bit older, but you may want to go with that if you don't necessarily have the needs that come with that M2 drive. Okie dokie. The next one is going to be something that might make your brain explode a little bit. So just take a deep breath, go away, get a coffee, and let's get into it, guys. We're going to be talking about RAID, which is essentially something called redundant array of independent disks. And that RAID stands for that, redundant array of independent disks. So before I get into telling you exactly what RAID, what the different types of RAID are, I'm just going to give you a brief overview so you've got an idea of what it even means. So RAID essentially is, we've got a visual representation of it here. We have one drive here, and we have another drive over here. Each of these drives has blocks of data in it, okay? So we have block 1 of data in drive 1, the second block of data in drive 1, the third block of data in drive 1, and the fourth block of data in drive 1. And we also have 4 blocks of data in drive 2. Now, the purpose of RAID is basically to make sure that we have a lot of availability of data, that or that the data on these drives is able to be accessed in a really fast way, and or to make sure that if we lose any of the drives with this data, we have some way to make sure that we can get that back and we haven't lost it forever. All right, so it's essentially a way of having multiple hard drives operating in conjunction with one another in order to achieve some sort of purpose, usually either making sure that we always have that data available in some way, shape, or form. We're maintaining uptime, or ensuring that we have really efficient access to this data. And we need to know about RAID 0, RAID 1, RAID 5, RAID 6, and RAID 10. And basically what that translates into is each one of these different types of RAID has a different purpose. Some of them focus on making sure the data is always available. Some of them focus on making sure that the data is able to be accessed really quickly, right? But maybe if one of those drives goes down, that data is lost, right? For example. And some of them do that in a combination of ways. They focused on having uptime at like 80%, but the other 20% is focused on speed, and it depends on what they're trying to achieve. So it will start to make sense as we go through it. But essentially, just understand that RAID is using hard drives to achieve some sort of purpose. Generally, it's to make sure the data is always available, or to make sure that it can be accessed efficiently. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started with RAID 0. Now, RAID 0 is what we see here. It does something called striping. Okay, RAID 0 does something called striping. Now, what does that mean? Striping means that it splits data evenly across 2 or more drives. So if we come over to the visual representation, you can see here in RAID 0, we have block 1 of data here. But the next block down is the next block is block 2, which is in drive 2. Oh, okay. So the next block is block 3, which is on drive 1. So it is splitting that data evenly across both drives, right? So by doing this, what they achieve is they increase the speed of read and write operations, essentially. And long story short, what that means is you can take from these drives more quickly, and you can write to these drives more quickly. That's a positive, okay? Really efficient way to access these drives. The downside, though, is if we lose drive 1, we've lost all that data, okay? We only had one block 1. If we lose this drive, block 1 is gone. There's no getting it back. So it's an efficient way to access that data, but if we lose a drive, we lose a drive. There is no redundancy, okay? So the advantages are that it significantly improves read and write performance by distributing data across multiple drives. It also maximizes storage capacity because if we're not doubling the data, if we had block 1 here and block 1 over here as well, and we doubled it, we would really only have the storage capacity of one drive, right? If we had block 1 here and here, and then we had block 2, block 3, a copy of block 3, block 4, a copy of block 4, we would have the same data just twice over. So it would be great, because if we lost one drive, we would still have all that data over here, but we would have less overall storage capacity because we would have to double that data. So if we only had 2 drives, then that would be it. So by striping the data like this across 2 drives, we maximize storage capacity. However, there is no redundancy or fault tolerance, meaning, like we were saying, if we lose one drive, it's game over. That data is gone. All right. So when would we use RAID 0? We would use RAID 0 if we were doing tasks needing high-speed storage, maybe video editing, gaming, or applications requiring fast temporary storage where data loss is not critical. Okay, so if data loss isn't really a worry, RAID 0 is a good option. If we're concerned with data loss, we don't want to go with RAID 0. That brings us to our next one, which is RAID 1. RAID 1 is pretty much the opposite of everything we were just talking about. You can see here in RAID 1, it does something called mirroring, and that is essentially the complete opposite of RAID 0. So in drive number 1, we have block 1 of data. In drive number 2, we have also a copy of block 1 of data. In drive number 1, we have block 2 data. In drive number 2, we have a copy of block 2 data. So what you can see here is it is the opposite, right? Data is mirrored or copied onto multiple drives, ensuring an exact duplicate of the data exists on each drive. It requires at least 2 drives to do. Now, I'm sure we can immediately start to think of the advantages, right? The advantages is if one drive goes down, that's okay. We still have all that data in this drive. But think about the disadvantages. We don't have that speed. We don't have that increased read and write input and output. And we also are going to have less overall storage space, like we talked about before, right? It has high redundancy as an advantage, because if one drive fails, the data is safe. But we do not have that increase in performance that we experience with RAID 0, right? So, and we also have half of the total storage space available. So we need to keep that into account, right? Again, of course, if we had a system requiring data safety or anything critical, had critical files on it where we couldn't afford to lose it, out of the 2 we've seen so far, this would be the one we want to go with. So for your exam, what you'll need to do is likely be provided with a scenario and requirements, and you'll have to recommend which type of RAID you will want to be using for that, right? So think at the moment we've got RAID 0, which is really good if you don't need redundancy and you just want things to happen fast. And we've got RAID 1, which is really good if you don't really need things to happen fast and you have critical files that you cannot afford to lose, and you don't necessarily need as much storage space. That's what we've covered so far. It's going to go up one level here though. We're going to go into RAID 5, guys. Now this is a little bit of in between, okay? A little bit of in between. So far, RAID 1 needs at least 2 drives to operate. RAID 0 also needed at least 2 drives to operate. RAID 5 does need at least 3 drives. You cannot have RAID 5 with less than 3 drives. Now, if we zoom in to RAID 5, we now have 3 drives, 1, 2, 3. It's also striping the data, right? We've got in drive 1, block 1, and in drive 2, we have a copy of block 1. And then in drive 2, we've got block 2, and then in drive 3, a copy of block 2. So it is splitting that data up across those 3 drives the same way that RAID 0 was, but now we have an additional function occurring here. We have something called a parity block or a parity bit. What that does is it takes note of the data that is existing, right? It takes note of the data that is there, and if we lose this drive, what will happen is the parity bit will actually say, oh, I've just noticed we've lost some data, but I remember what that data was. So I'm going to come in and I'm actually going to go ahead and restore that data and bring it back up online, right? That's the function of the parity bit or parity block. okay? So it has that fast read and write time because you are striping that data across drives, and it has a level of redundancy because if you lose that data over time, this parity bit or parity block will be able to rebuild that data. It does take time to do that though. So this is a little bit of an in-between one, right? RAID 5 does have the advantages because it gives a good balance between performance, storage efficiency, and redundancy, right? It can tolerate the failure of one drive without data loss. If more than one drive goes down, you do not have the parity bits to make up for that. So you can only afford one drive to be lost. However, you do have a couple of negatives that comes with that. The first one is the write performance is a little bit slower because we need to consistently be calculating and writing the data on that parity bit, right? That parity bit or parity block is always taking note of the data that exists. So because of that, the write performance is a little slower than if we were to use RAID 0, which stripes but doesn't have that parity bit, okay? Also, data recovery is slower if a drive fails than in RAID 1 because in RAID 1 you have that exact copy right there, but in RAID 5 you need to wait for the parity bit or parity block to actually make up. You need to wait for some time for that data to rebuild. Okay, so when would you use this? You would probably use this in servers or environments that balance performance and redundancy, such as medium-sized businesses. So look, long story short, if you're in a situation where you need redundancy, you need pretty good performance, and you are able to pay a little bit more than you are for the other two, because think about it, you're getting redundancy and you're getting pretty good performance for that read-write operations. However, oh, and you also need an additional drive for this, right? Remember that, you need 3 drives for this. So the cost is going to be a bit higher. However, it's going to be worth it if you do need redundancy and good speeds, okay? So that is when you would want to use RAID 5. On to the next one, which is RAID 6. Now this one is essentially, it is similar to RAID 5, but it has dual parity blocks or bits. So that basically results in additional fault tolerance by allowing 2 drives to fail without data loss. Okay, so in RAID 6, everything I said about RAID 5 is the same. However, we can afford not just one drive going down, we can afford 2 drives going down. You also need at least 4 drives for this one though, okay? So it is going to be even more expensive for that same outcome, right? But you can afford 2 drives to go down. So it adds additional fault tolerance, but it is going to be a little more expensive, okay? So, additionally, it's going to have that slower write performance because it has another parity bit. So it's going to have some more calculations to do. And it also has less storage space than RAID 5, right? Because, yeah, we have another drive, but we're using a lot of that space for a parity bit, okay? So that's some of the things we need to take into consideration. However, we do have very high redundancy. It can handle 2 simultaneous drive failures. That's pretty good. That's pretty good, right? So if you've got a critical system with a lot of data that requires continuous uptime and you can afford it, maybe this would be the one for you. That being said, we're going to go on to the last one, which is RAID 10 or RAID 1+0. Now, RAID 10 is the best of everything we've talked about so far. The reason I called it, or we call it, RAID 1+0 as well as RAID 10 is because it is basically taking RAID 1 and RAID 0 and combining all of the good things about them together. It does mirroring. We can see it has drive 1, drive 2, drive 3, drive 4, and it mirrors data, right? We have block 1 and a copy of block 1. Block 2, a copy of block 2. Block 3, a copy of block 3, etc. So it does mirror, but it's also striping. Because on these 2 drives, we have block 1, and that data is split because on these 2 drives, you have block 2. And then on these 2 drives, block 3. On these 2 drives, block 4. So data is still split across, still having that advantage of good uptime, while also simultaneously providing fault tolerance. So if this block goes down, you still have that data here. And if this block drive goes down, you still have that, data in this one here. So you can survive 2 drive failures in RAID 10. You can also have really good read-write operations as well. So let's really lay it out for us. It's combining RAID 0 striping and RAID 1 mirroring. It's striping and mirroring. It requires at least 4 drives, okay? 2 pairs of mirrored drives. Now, the good things about RAID 10, as we talked about already, it has really good fault tolerance. You can lose 2 drives and still have all your data. And unlike RAID 5 and 6, you can have that data straight away. You don't have to wait for the parity bit to back it up. It's there straight away. You also have that high performance. It's combining the speed benefits of RAID 0 with the redundancy of RAID 1 and fast recovery times. I just spoke about that. Some of the disadvantages, it's really pricey, guys. 4 drives, and think about the benefits. This is going to be the most pricey one that you can get, essentially, right? So RAID 10 is the absolute best of the best. The disadvantages as well, it requires more drives for the same amount of usable storage. So you're paying for that redundancy because you're doubling it all. So you really only have the storage space of 2 blocks, of 2 drives in total. However, you have really good redundancy to make up for that. So that is one thing to consider. But essentially, guys, a use case for this, high performance, high reliability applications, maybe a database, virtualization, high-speed computing, it will pretty much lay it out for you in the scenario that they give you. They will say, we want the best uptime, we want the best speed, we want the best redundancy, and we have no issues with budget, right? In that case, RAID 10 would probably be the one. And in your question, they'll also give you how many drives they have available, I imagine, right? So they're going to provide you with some data to make a decision between RAID 0, RAID 1, RAID 5, RAID 6, or RAID 10, and the data they'll give you will be how much, how many drives they have available, the kind of speed they're looking for, the level of storage they're looking for, and how much money they are willing to spend. Based on those 4 general topics or requirements, you'll have to make a decision based on that, okay? The next thing we're looking at is removable storage, guys. This is where it gets easy. Like, we've got flash drives. That's just a USB. We've all used a USB. It's a portable form of storage device that uses flash memory. Plug and play. You can just plug it in and access the data. You'll pretty much just need to hear a description of that and say, oh yeah, that's a flash drive, which is basically saying, yeah, that's a USB drive, right? It's very small, not recommended as a primary method of data storage. You should probably use a hard drive for permanent data storage. It's really just good for transferring data from one thing to another, right? For temporary transfers or for backups, just as a spare backup to have. Then we have these memory cards, which is commonly used in cameras, right? It's a type of flash storage similar to USB, but it's generally used in cameras. So you've got SD, micro SD, compact flash, digital cameras, smartphones, drones, gaming consoles. Look, it looks like that, and you use it in largely cameras is where they're frequently used, right? To capture some sort of recording is the most common use for these guys. Just be able to hear a description of it and say, oh yeah, that's a memory card, that's an SD card, right? These ones are really basic. And then an optical drive is just a CD, right? You put it in, it spins around, you read the data off of the spinning. That is a CD. Optical drive is a CD. It gets inserted into the CD drive. And if it's inserted into a CD drive, you know it's an optical drive. You don't need to know much more than that for your exam, guys. This is one of the ones right here. Don't worry too much about it. It's like if you've been in existence for the last year, you'll be able to know the difference between these 3. I'd be surprised if you got a difficult question on them. Now, let's get to some questions, guys. Your practice questions. Let's go ahead and do it. The first one reads, a data center technician is tasked with upgrading the storage system for a high-frequency trading server. This server must access and process massive amounts of data in real time to maintain its competitive edge. The facility already has state-of-the-art cooling and noise control, so increased heat and acoustic levels are not a major concern. Which spindle speed is the most suitable choice for this application? A, 5,400 RPM, B, 7,200 RPM, C, 10,000 RPM, D, 15,000 RPM. Pause the video if you need more time. Answer coming in 3, 2, 1. Here we go. The answer is D, 15,000 RPM, guys. They were talking about, they're a high-speed data center. They need immediate access to this kind of data, and they don't need to worry about that kind of generating too much heat, right? Everything he was saying, we need a lot of speed, and we need it now, right? The fastest possible spindle speed is crucial to minimize latency and maximize throughput. They were saying we need a lot of speed, we need it now. What gave that away? They said they want to upgrade the storage, which means it's probably not going to be the lowest spindle speed if you're upgrading, for a high frequency trading server. So they use it a lot. The server must access and process massive amounts of information in real time. So all of this is saying really, really low latency, really high speeds, because they want to maintain a competitive edge. It already has state-of-the-art cooling, so they don't need to worry about heat or the noise of fast spinning platters. Everything about this is saying they need a lot of speed and they need it now. All right, so that was kind of the giveaways there. There was no specific mention of budget, but it's a safe bet in that case that that is what they would want. All right, next question reads, a system administrator is planning to upgrade a high-performance application server that needs ultra-fast data access with minimal latency. The server's architecture supports modern storage interfaces, and the goal is to leverage the best available technology in terms of speed and efficiency. Which storage solution should be recommended? A. SATA, B. NVMe, C. PCIe, D. SAS. Pause the video if you need more time. Your answer coming in 3, 2, 1. Let's go. It is B, NVMe. Guys, NVMe, or non-volatile memory express, is the most suitable storage solution for a high-performance application server. Guys, if they're saying they need ultra-fast data access with minimal latency, remember, NVMe is specifically designed for solid-state drives and leverages the PCIe Express interface to get that really, really fast speeds. It is pretty much the fastest one you can get, right? And you might have been potentially leaning towards PCIe. Remember, NVMe uses PCIe, but NVMe is the protocol that is actually in use there. PCIe just allows the use of NVMe. If you were thinking about SAS, just remember that this was a server that needed really, really high speeds. They wanted the fastest speed, the lowest latency. SAS is great for enterprise environments, connecting lots of different devices, etc. However, it is just not as fast as NVMe SSDs. And because we're looking at a single server here in this question, right, we were looking at a single server, this was just the best answer because NVMe is the fastest of all of these protocols, okay? So NVMe SSD is what we want to look for here. Now, guys, let's go ahead and go to the next question. RAID. Don't be hard on yourself if you get this one wrong, guys. RAID takes some practice, okay? The question reads, a regional media company is setting up a centralized backup server to achieve critical project data. The system is built using 6 hard drives and is designed to tolerate the simultaneous failure of any 2 drives. This configuration achieves the level of fault tolerance by using dual parity, which comes at the cost of a slight performance penalty on write operations. Which RAID configuration is being described? A. RAID 1, B. RAID 5, C. RAID 6, D. RAID 10. Few seconds and I'll give you your answer in 3, 2, 1. Let's go. Your answer is C, RAID 6. Why RAID 6? Pause if you want to read that, guys. But RAID 6, it was a giveaway from a couple of things, right? They said that it wants to be able to handle failure of any 2 drives. There's only 2 that can handle failure of 2 drives. That is RAID 6 and RAID 10. RAID 5 can handle the failure of 1 drive. RAID 1 can handle the failure of 1 drive. So it has to be one of either RAID 6 or RAID 10. Finally, it says that it uses dual parity. RAID 10 does not have any level of parity bits. Remember, they just copy data onto 2 different drives and they split that data across all 4 of those drives. But RAID 6 uses parity. So based off of just this information, RAID 6 was our giveaway if we know our RAIDs. If you got that wrong, that's okay. That can be a tricky one. The next one reads, a freelance graphic designer frequently travels and works from various locations to transfer large project files quickly between different computers. They rely on a highly portable plug-and-play storage device. However, this device is known to have limited write cycles and can easily be lost or damaged due to its small size, making it unsuitable as a long-term primary storage solution. Which type of removable storage is being described? A. Flash drive. B. Memory card. C, optical drive, or D, external hard drive? Pause the video if you need more time. Your answer in 3, 2, 1. Okay. The answer is A, flash drive, guys. There's a few giveaways here. It says that he wants to use this to transfer projects between different computers. Generally, that's going to be a flash drive. That's a common use for a flash drive. Or a USB. But also plug and play storage device. That is indicative of a flash drive. You might think, oh, memory card was pretty plug and play, but not a lot of computers these days have an SD card slot or a memory card slot. You often need an adapter, but pretty much every computer has a USB slot ready to go. Can't think of a single computer that doesn't have a USB interface, right? So it's generally more plug and play. Optical drive, you really need a DVD drive, so that's not going to be it. External hard drive is big and bulky, definitely not used for those quick data transfers. Memory card just is not as plug and play friendly. So flash drive is the best answer there. Now guys, if you're interested, if you found the content in this video good, of interest, and you want to see how you're going to go for the real thing, you can go ahead and grab my free practice exam. It's going to be in the comment in the description below and in the pinned comment below as well. You've got 3 performance-based questions there, and you've got 90, will my screen load? Will it give me good resolution? There you go. You've got 90 multiple choice questions there. And if you really like everything here and you want the most help you can possibly get with preparing for your exam, you can go ahead and grab my learning guide, my ultimate learning guide, in which you'll get a learning guide. You'll get 3 full practice exams, each of which has 2 to 3 performance-based questions and 90 multiple choice questions. You'll get interactive troubleshooting, performance-based question simulations, and a spreadsheet to track your progress. And I'll actually tell you exactly the exact study process that you should be following for this. It helped this guy pass his exam, and it'll help you pass yours too. All right. Now, as a little look into exactly what you get here, the learning guide is broken down by exam objectives and broken down even further into dot point and into sub dot points. So I really make sure to cover everything you need to know for your exam. For all of this, I give you multiple choice questions. My internet's a bit slow. It's not loading for me. Come on, man. There you go. I give you multiple choice questions. I give you, come on, you can do it. You can do it. I give you detailed answers and explanations. I give you, are you going to load? Come on, man. There you go. I give you 11 performance-based questions in total across all of the exam objectives. And I also give you this interactive troubleshooting performance-based questions simulation where you can actually click on buttons. So for each of these ones, you have people you can click on and they'll have an issue that they need you to solve. And it's not going to be a multiple choice one where it's like 4 options. You're going to have a huge list of things to choose from, and you're going to make sure you select the right one based off of the information they provided you with. Same for these guys, some printer troubleshooting. You've got troubleshooting for all the primary troubleshooting exam objectives. I also tell you a good way to use 2 free AI tools to 10 times your learning. Once you've narrowed down your bloody weak areas, then you can use this video to help you really fix those weak areas and make sure you're going to get on top of it quicker than like 99% of people. And I also tell you in this video exactly how you should be studying with multiple choice questions. Most people think they can study with multiple choice questions, but they just do it wrong, long story short, and I tell you exactly how you should be doing it. So I give you all the tools you need. I basically hold your hand through to that exam room to make sure you're going to have the highest chance of passing that you possibly can. So if you want to pass, like this guy down here, go ahead and head to the link in the description or in the pinned comment down below. Otherwise, guys, you know, I'm putting this whole series out for free, so you don't need this, but these videos with the questions don't cover like 100%. I cover all the content, but I don't have questions, just because like some of these exam objectives have like 20 to 25 questions for one exam objective, and I just can't sit on YouTube reading that out loud, right? So if you like the look of that, go ahead and grab it. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next one, guys. Gotcha. Thanks for choosing me to walk you through this.